What's goody to any and everybody who may be listening? Now, I'm going to be talking about this house. Okay, now this is a house that goes all the way back to myself as Lilith up in the throat chakra. Now, not only was this my house, like this was my house at one point, at some point in time, this was most definitely my house, the house I used to live in. Okay. Now, this house was out there by the mountains, like the mountains, not the Rocky Mountains, but like it's a lot of trees because I'm seeing a lot of pine trees and things of this nature up on the mountains. So it was lush. There was lush mountains. And my house was just like a little one-story house. A one-story house. It was like a long house. But I gotta tell you about this house because a lot happened here. Okay. So this is where I lived at prior to any of this nasty shit happening. These nasty things that began to happen. So okay, first there was the incident with the individual whom I refer to as the Maestro, which is really just the plural form of mouse with stro on the end. Okay, but his name is Andy. He incarnated into this lifetime as Andy. This individual and I were together at that time. Okay, like, but this is an individual. Okay, now this individual is nothing less than pure evil. And I got to know this when there was an incident over at my house. Now, I guess this was supposed to be some sort of humiliation ritual, and it had an effect. It worked then it worked. We're gonna have to call our energy and light sparks back from that incident. I decree and declare that's any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got lost or that had gotten trapped, abandoned, fearful, and left me. In the midst of that humiliation ritual where them girls bust up in me while I was butt-ass naked with Andy. Any of my light sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within that are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child, the Trinity, in one vessel, and that's me. Okay. So what had happened was Andy and I were in the middle of sex, or about to start sex, and I was up in that room, butt ass naked. When them girls, I'm talking about the girls in that harem. It's the same harem. It's the same. Oh, it's the same harem of girls. Okay. Who bust in that room while me and Andy was up in there, I was butt naked, and stabbed me up and killed me in that lifetime in my own house. Let's go ahead and do some extra decrees and declarations. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within that, the killing of myself by those girls in that brothel, or that motherfucking what you call it, harem, be released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on home. To the mother, the father, and the child, I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up within the humiliation, that got lost within the humiliation and the fear are released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now, this house is storied. And I gotta say this about Andy. That's when I realized just how evil he was after that occurrence. And it was all, I gotta tell you, I gotta say this about Andy too. It was always Andy there to sort of laugh and point his finger. I do recall a time when he was pointing his finger. Now I don't know where the place is at, but let's just go ahead and call our energy back from that. But this individual was laughing and pointing at me. Okay? At the time, it must have been humiliating because it worked. At that time, let's go ahead and call our light sparks back from that as well. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, soul fragments that got lost or caught up within the midst of Andy right there, laughing and pointing his finger right along with the others. Now this was down in the heart after the lifetime as the coven leader. Andy. So I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks, soul fragments that got caught up, that got lost, that had gotten stolen within the midst of my dealings with Andy, up there as the coven leader, be released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to none other than myself. Okay? And as well as that finger pointing incident right after that lifetime. Where they was all in that hallway. It looked like a school hallway, pointing and laughing. I decree and declare any and all of my light sparks and soul fragments removed, released, freed, and brought on back home. Okay? So let's finish with this house. Now, it was the same house, my house, the same house where I was tied to that table. Like this was a long table, like a rock table, like it was stone. Back then there was a lot of stone. Like it's sort of giving Stonehenge, or it's like ancient Rome, Greek. It had a lot of built like stone decor. Anyway, so I was tied to that table, okay, in the back of my own house. I got a fountain right there. There's like a fountain to the right with like water spit out, okay, and things of this nature. We already called our life sparks back from this, but let's just do it again. I decree and declare that any and all of my like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within that moment of being on that table, tied up to it in my own backyard, freed, released, removed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay, so now after this, I wouldn't see this house for a while, okay? So let's just talk about what had happened in the interview, okay? Now after this, after I was tied to that table and killed by Orunmila in that lifetime, I became the Gale, okay? Now at that time, that wasn't my house anymore, or I didn't see that house again until we got down into the sacral. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, okay? Now, what I'm getting is that this brotherhood continued to live in that house, or they continued to like maintain themselves at that house, which was my house, okay? So it's like I don't know how they did it, but they stayed at that house, okay? Okay, so let me tell you what happened. So as we move down the body, I'm moving into different locations and things of this nature. Like when I became the Gale, my house was completely different. I lived somewhere else. Okay, it wasn't the same house. The same thing with the Covenant Leader. I didn't live in the same house from the Gale. And the Covenant Leader, as we went down the body, I started living in apartments and things. But the surprising thing that I'm just now seeing is that the house after the rape down in the sacral where the spikes came out, where then I was kidnapped and locked in the cellar, that's the house where I was locked inside of the cellar of that house. My house up as Lilith. That was the house that I used to live in. That's the same house them girls busted in on me and killed me in. That's the same house where I was tied to the table and killed. Because again, here, back upwards in the body, you weren't really killed. It's very different, okay? Those dynamics. But, and then once I got downwards into the sacral after the locking in the cellar, after the being put through sex trafficking, the drugs and everything, that was the house where that was occurring at. And also, not to mention the end of that lifetime where I was first on that floor. First I was on the floor full of orbs. Then somehow I got placed into that chair. Now I gotta go ahead and call my life sparks back from this chair. It's a chair where I recall myself, they sat me up in that chair. Them creatures sat me up in that chair. I'm telling you, I was swollen from the rooter to the tutor. I couldn't move my neck for nothing. I couldn't even look from side to side. Okay. So let's go ahead and call our light sparks back from that chair. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, any and all of my energy that got caught up or that had gotten lost within that chair, right there where I was sitting up, where they sat me up and I was swollen from the rooter to the tutor, be released, removed, freed, healed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now, again, this is the same house where I was murdered downwards in the sacral. Okay, and it's swollen. Let's go ahead and call our life sparks back from the house as a whole, and we are done. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up, lost, stolen, abandoned within the midst of that house. You know the house I'm talking about. That house out there by the mountains, my house, that's Lilith. Any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up within that house, anywhere, in that fountain, on that table, in any room, go up under the ground, look up in secret compartments, go up above the house. Everywhere around the house, go to the next door neighbor. Everywhere, go into the car, I had a car too. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy that got caught up within that car, energy, light sparks, soul fragments that got caught up within that car, be released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. So, thank you. Bye-bye.